and goal from the 10. Pritchard has the snap. He drops back. He's going to throw that lob. Bradford jumps up. He caught it. Touchdown! Touchdown!
That we need to be at the center of college football, play on center stage, and play in big games. That's the legacy of Stanford football. That's the tradition. That's where this culture is headed.
Hogan to the middle, and it's complete. McCaffrey! Will he score on the first play from scrimmage? Yes!
Welcome to the first ever episode of the Talking Trees podcast. We got your host, Ross, aka Nerd Nation, and
Ryan, aka Nerd Brutality.
Two burners that have come together to unite and form a podcast. We're excited to talk some Stanford football here. And as we review, or as we get ready for Hawaii, we really thought this first episode it'd be good to kind of take a temperature of the program, give kind of a reminder of what has been a tumultuous offseason one, some updates, some fall camp buzz, as well as teasing out what's coming up in the future episodes. So I'll start here with just a quick reminder of where we left off last season. It's been arguably the worst stretch of Stanford football in the history of Stanford football, especially in our lifetimes. It was another 3-win season. Will we get past 3 wins? I hope. It's been kind of purgatory for us Stanford fans for the last 4 years since Shaw left and the Coach Cal Plant came in and didn't do much in terms of wins. So quick reminder, 4 straight 3-9 season, couple highs, Syracuse game, awesome game, really kicked off, gave us a little bit of hope, thinking that we could compete in the ACC. Had some of our freshmen play really well. Definitely gave us a little bit of momentum, and all of that was lost the next week. I think the theme of last season really, and Ryan, you can add some color here, but the theme of last season was when adversity struck, we just did not have what it took to overcome any adversity. Once a big turnover, whether it be a Nash and Daniels poorly timed interception or, a fumble, we just could never get back on track. And I really think that was the key theme of last season. But it lows pretty much everything else. Not a lot of highs there. I think we did get to see what on paper was a pretty good freshman class come in and compete and play. I think that was one of the big kind of highlights of last season. Running back wise, I think we've got a stable of backs coming back that were all freshmen last year, highlighted by Micah Ford, who's just a big physical running back. And the whole stable looks to be pretty promising. What do you think, Ron?
Yeah. There was not a ton to add from that. It was about as rough as it gets. It's a bad season when you just don't look forward to watching some games. You see them on the schedule, you see how the team's playing, you see where the injuries are, and you're like, do I really have to tune in for this game? And we did. We sat through every game. There was some very rough ones. Man, that Virginia Tech game in particular, I thought we had a chance in that game, and that was so SMU. Oh my God, that game was over in like the first drive. That team just, and we'll get into that. We'll talk more about, how the COVID affected the portal and how it affected how old some of the guys were and how it's affected Stanford. So in this episode, we're really just going to kind of go over what happened this offseason, including, the return of the GOAT. Andrew Luck is back on the farm. Frank Reich, the infamous Philly special. Well, I would say infamous. I'd say famous. I mean, it's a pretty cool play on the farm. Troy Taylor, a.k.a. Coach Cal Plant, is gone. Honestly, shout out to Coach Taylor for setting the Stanford record for worst winning percentage in the history of Stanford football. I didn't think we would ever see Walt Harris's record beat. Yeah. And, it took a lot. Troy Taylor was a real asshole, and he was able to do it. So props to him. That'll be his legacy. We'll talk about the transfer portal, our upcoming schedule, some, I think Ross and I will each give a projection on how we see the season going, and maybe we'll dive into some other college football news if we have time.
Yeah, so, off-season recap here. Let's start with some coaching updates. Obviously, the biggest one, Coach Cal Plant Taylor fired after what appeared to be a scandal involving some female staffers and overall bullying. We're not going to get into the specifics there, but, just the impact of losing a head football coach in the spring. Obviously Andrew Luck coming in at the end of the season as GM, announcing a big announcement on College Game Day. It seemed like momentum was kind of finally kicking into gear a little bit. And then, the incident happens and you fire a head coach. Not the perfect timing. I know some fans were hoping that we would, pull on a full-time head coach, but I think what Andrew Luck did was kind of thread the needle here, right? And, I can't imagine a better quote unquote interim head coach than Frank Reich, a head coach in the NFL, a veteran offensive coordinator, but overall just seems like a really good person. And I think that positive coaching mentality is something that's been missing from the program. I think it's a really important step in solidifying the momentum moving forward in the program or the program culture, right? How do you get back to that, elite program culture that we saw in the early to mid 2010 and beyond? And I think it really starts with, caring about one another and caring about Stanford and upholding traditions, which I think Coach Reich is going to do. Andrew Luck is definitely going to fire up the boys as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think there's a lot of truth to all that. I think, as the kids say, the vibes were not good. It was a bad place for almost every single player in that locker room. The stories you hear are kind of sad about, players were treated, how staff was treated. So I think we're going to look back in 10 years when Andrew Luck resurrects this program and thinking like that was the turning point. Like, we got rid of the anchor. We brought in a guy who is just, from everything I've heard, a good person, which I think is what a lot of these upperclassmen needed after dealing with Shaw leaving, Taylor coming in, wrecking havoc, and now having the third head coach they've had in 4 years.
4 years.
Frank is perfect for that position because you can tell based on the videos from talking to players that he legitimately cares about their well-being. And, no different than building a house. Like, you have to build a strong foundation. And Reich is coming in. He brings that championship foundation. The guy is an OC winning, Super Bowl coach. Like, there's a handful of those guys out there. It's a very limited club. So he knows what he's doing. He had some bad runs in Indianapolis and Carolina, but I think he has a lot of coaching talent, and he's the right person to at least put us right back on track for a year.
100%. I think more than anything, you see where Andrew Luck, with Coach Reich's hire, even as an interim status, where he's projecting the program moving forward. I think, hiring an offensive NFL-minded head coach, I think you see that we're going back towards the power run pro style offense that we became so accustomed to in the mid 2010s, with 3 tight end sets, power run blocking, power schemes, timely offensive explosiveness, but also just the monotonous 3 to 5 yards, right? I think that is something that honestly plays to our roster better this year than it did last year, coming from more of a spread, throw it around the block style offense that really could not establish the run at all. If you can sum up one reason why Stanford has won 3 games in the last 4 seasons, it's because we haven't been able to run the ball. We can't run the ball.
Yeah. Couldn't throw the ball either.
Couldn't throw the ball, but more importantly, you need to run the ball to open up the pass, right? So I think you see where Andrew Luck's going with the program. I think most fans are excited about the idea of going back to more of that intellectual brutality approach of, big offensive line, big tight ends, field general quarterback. So I'm excited to see that. Wanted to quickly touch on some other coaching news. So first, coaches that have left since our last season. Coach Vianney, assistant offensive line coach, gone. I'm not going to comment too much on that. Bob Gregory, safeties, a veteran kind of defensive coordinator across the Pac-12. Actually, was Chris Peterson's DC back at Washington for a little bit. He has left the program and actually gone across the bay to Cal. In assistant DC, Andy Thompson, which was Tro Taylor's right-hand man, which is an interesting situation. And then back, the legend Cody Whitfield, arguably one of the best catches in Stanford football history against UCLA, and I think it was 2013 or 2012.
Unbelievable snag.
He's back to coach the secondary, and stoked to see his name back in the mix as well.
We should probably talk about Andy Thompson, because that is an interesting dynamic.
It is.
And it's something that we really haven't got a ton of answers from our beat writers on, which is, how is this dynamic going to work between Bobby April and Andy Thompson?
Yeah, no, 100%. And like, you saw the defense last year. I think Coach April, early on in the season, I think we were top 10 in rush defense. So you could start to see the momentum and the philosophy of that Wisconsin style defense that, April comes from, coming from that Jim Leonard style defense. And I think we were excited early on. You could see kind of where we were going from a defensive perspective. Obviously, injuries came into play. Losing Jay Green against Clemson did not help.
One of the worst injuries all season for us.
That was a big momentum. Regardless, that Clemson game, that was kind of the nail in the coffin there. But, I think as a fan watching, you could see that the defense was progressing faster than the offense. It is weird, right, to bring in a co-defensive coordinator here after, what most fans thought was the better part of our team last year, our defense. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think, at least from what we've heard early on in the spring and, from fall, I think Andy's bringing in some decent blitz schemes and blitz packages that weren't a part of the base scheme last year. So that'll be interesting. Overall, I think it's any help here will be appreciated from the Stanford defense. So we'll see what happens. Roster movement. I think that covers all the staff. Roster movement. Obviously, some key departures here. We're going to lose our GOAT, Elick Manor, Mind Joe Manas, to the Titans. He's also having a pretty good start to his career with the Titans in preseason, so wishing him well. Ashton Daniels transfers out, goes to Auburn. I think he's reportedly the third-string quarterback at Auburn, so that's a tough blow. Losing David Bailey, that was something that I think fans expected. It still hurts, but we've been hearing for years now that he was getting poached in the portal by USC, and then it became Texas Tech, and so wasn't surprised there. I think obviously a star of the defense last year, but personally, I'm not too sad
when he played.
When he played, he was good.
See, that's the issue. It's like David Bailey is a very uber talented player.
Mm-hmm.
There was some motivation issues throughout the year, and you could see it on the sideline. The body language was not always great. And it's tough because, like, you look at his counterpart, Tafiti, and you see the effort that guy puts in every single play, and you're like, well, we still have him, but man, we're really going to miss that talent that David Bailey had and he brought to the field every day. And, you just can't, in this day and age of transfer portal, you can't cry over spilled milk, but that one definitely hurt, specifically because he went to Texas Tech, who has now found that they like to poach Stanford athletes, which is getting really frustrating. Yeah, we lost Kennedy to them too.
Of Texas, Lubbock.
Yeah, and as someone who's been to Lubbock on multiple occasions, I would much rather be in Stanford, but that's not my call. So happy for him. He got paid, payday for him. Hopefully he takes that money and does great things with it, but you won't be investing in a unicorn companies like you would at Silicon Valley. I'll tell you that much.
Other losses: Emmett Mosley leaving for Texas. This one hurts out of all of them. I think.
It was unexpected too.
Yeah,
didn't see that one coming.
He got hurt early on last year. Started coming on late in the season. Had a great grab against Louisville to help the upset of that top 25 Louisville Cardinals. I think that was a big loss there. I don't think it was expected, but at the end of the day, with so much turmoil with coach leaving and everything going on, I can't blame the guy. It sounds like he's starting at Texas, and wish him well. And then a flurry of O-line transfers, as Stanford fans have been accustomed to. We lose Jake McCullough to Oklahoma, Luke Belenko to Oklahoma, Connor McLaughlin to South Florida, and I think Trevor Mayberry to Mississippi State, who I don't think played too much last year, but
I found that shocking.
That was it. That was a surprise to me. Bear and Tiger Bachmeyer, who left in the spring.
Oh, we can have a whole episode on that one.
So, yeah, it sounds like we are going to see him week 2 or week 3, which will be interesting. We can go further into that, but want to speed up here. Losing Ishmael Cece to Arkansas and Jackson Harris to Hawaii. So, yeah, do we have any receivers left, Ryan?
I think someone said that like 5 of our remaining receivers are walk-ons.
Yeah.
Thank God for our tight end room, but yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's
Looks
light
like
right now.
looks like we're going to be running a lot of 13 and 14 personnel this year because receiver is definitely not going to be a fruitful room. It appears.
It appears. Now, we say that now, and that's going to backfire on us, and we'll see what happens. But
Mhm.
and we're going to get into some of the transfer receivers here in a second. But yeah, who knows what happened in the back to the teams. Oh, and Media Rubin left also for USF. So
USF, yeah.
Troy Taylor, and I'm not gonna know how much I want to put on Osborne right now, but I'm just gonna blame it on Taylor because it's easy to do at this point. He
Yeah.
ran off the entire wide receiver room. Like, not a single one wanted to come back. Like, that just tells you what the culture was like before he was fired.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
on to some good news. Incoming transfers. Ryan, do you want to?
yeah. We got 17. It's a new Stanford record, and a decent amount of them are actually going to play. So I think Andrew Luck did a really good job this offseason finding talent in places generally we wouldn't be looking. I think the Stanford identity the next 5 years, as long as this transfer portal is open, whatever happens, is finding really good players that are underappreciated at lower levels, whether that be FCS, G4, or even Division II. So we'll start with my personal favorite because he's coming from Cal, Hunter Barth. Cal fans seemed really pissed about this one. So that tells me that he's a pretty decent player. They really thought he was going to be a leader on their defense this year. It doesn't look like he'll be starting because that is one part of our defense that has a lot of depth. I think Matt Rose and Galvin are going to be the 2 starters, it looks like. Both are excellent inside linebackers. I think Hunter is in second spot behind Galvin, so he'll get lots of run. And then Zach Johnson's right below him, another transfer from Idaho. So
The Vandals.
Yeah, that inside linebacker group the last couple of years has been wonderful. And who's ever coaching them up is doing a great job. They're going to be physical. They're going to hit. They're going to just be like sneaking missiles out there. So the other, let's see, what else we got? We got Nick Fatigue.
Fattig.
I think it's what it's pronounced. You're going to find throughout this podcast, I have the worst pronunciations of last names you'll ever come across. So it's going to be fun figuring out how to Fatigue. Yep. Okay. We'll get better as the time goes on. So anyway, he's coming in from Texas Tech, a former, I think, national champion weightlifter. Pretty cool. Big boy, physical, and is now slotted in as a starter.
At right guard?
I think they have him at left guard. Him and Zach Malmucci will be on left guard. Zach coming off a 2-year mission. So it's good to have him on the campus. Happy for him. Hope he did a good job wherever he was. And we're happy to have him back on the farm. We have Sam Neely, cornerback from Wake Forest. Supposedly a great athlete. Probably a little lower in the depth charts at the moment. Same with Braylon Thompson, another cornerback from Yale. Supposedly another great athlete. We'll see how he transitions to P4 football, but he seems to have the physical toolkit to do so. So that's a good start. This one kind of hurt because we brought in Nathan Mejia, a center from Sac State, who actually graded out really well in PFF. Pretty excited about what he can bring to the table. Unfortunately, it sounds like he tore a muscle in his arm and is probably out for the season. So not sure where that puts him. I believe is he a redshirt junior? So he'll be back next year. Yeah. As a senior. Okay. We still got him back. That doesn't hurt too bad. Tuna Altier, really cool story. If you have a chance, go look at his background. Big physical back from Eastern Washington, kind of flew under the radar. I don't think he's going to get a ton of reps at the start, but he looks pretty physical, so he might be able to last a little bit longer and not get injured. Brendan Doyle, tight end from Memphis. Everything I've heard is that he is a monster blocking wise. He might not be in the same category as Blackburn and Roush catching. But everything I've heard from players and read from coaches is that he likes to hit. and he loves to block. So we love having those kind of guys in the farm. That'll help with the 1-3, 1-4 formations. Then we have David Pantelis, wide receiver from Yale. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL in practice. He will be out for the year. We are really excited about him. We won him with a big battle with Michigan for recruiting. So we're excited to see him back on the field next year. Caden High, wide receiver from South Carolina State, has moved up 3 levels of football in 3 years. So it's kind of exciting to see what he can do. Super fast, super quick, probably be in the slot, especially with the heavy blitz packages that we saw last year because people knew we didn't have much blocking. Branson will definitely have to be finding him quickly, get him the ball, and get out. Then we already talked about Zach Johnson, linebacker from Idaho. Love that kid. Looks like he's a beast. Kai Greer, an O-line from Georgia Tech, who was originally committed to Stanford, then flipped to Arkansas, then flipped to Georgia Tech, and is now back at Stanford. His father played at Stanford, so great to have Kai back on the farm. He looks like he's slotting in right now. Where do they have him? He's on the 2 deep, but I'm sure he'll find his way on there soon enough. He's a big boy. He's physical. He's got some skill. CJ Williams. Yeah, we got a lot of transfers. Wide receiver from Wisconsin, USC. Big time recruit. Just never could find a spot. So he's more of a reclamation project. Same with Jordan Onovugu. How do you think you pronounce that?
I was waiting for that one.
Oh, I'm gonna get cooked.
Another
I think they say Onove. Onove is what the pronunciation chart says. Well, excited to see. I think everyone at Colorado spoke really highly of Jordan, so it'll be cool to see what he does. I think the biggest pickup outside of our QB was Nick Prongas, and offensive tackle from UCLA, day 1 starter. Everything I've heard, he is like a legit offensive line. You have any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, he was a walk-on at UCLA originally from Napa, I think. He went to Marin Catholic up in North Bay area and came in as a walk-on. Obviously, super talented and got the scholarship. And don't think he started early on last year, but some injuries occurred to UCLA and ended up starting a handful of games. Saw him go up against Abdul Carter at Penn State, held his own. So excited about Nick Prongas and how he can progress this year for us. And obviously, left tackle is arguably the most important position on the offense other than quarterback. So I'm hoping that he can protect good old Dr. Ben, his blind side, and hopefully anchor our O-line there.
Yeah, I think it says something that he beat out Fisher Anderson for that spot because I think everything I've heard is Fisher had a great camp. He's bulked up a lot. He looks like an offensive, and so those two are going to be a great 1-2 pair. And I feel really confident about our left side. Then we have Jordan Washington, a cornerback from Dartmouth. He appears to be a starter, which is exciting. I mean, it's kind of rare that you get a starter from the Ivy League. So he is another guy that graded out really well in PFF. We'll see how he transitions to the next level. It's going to be a little bit different going against Clemson's wide receivers than going against, well, I guess we don't have Clemson this year. Miami's wide receivers.
Yeah.
Than our wide receivers. But, we're hoping he's up for the challenge. And that leaves the 2 quarterbacks, Dylan Risk. I think it's Risk. Yeah, QB from UCF. He's fun to watch. He's got some cool highlights. He's going to be, I think, 3rd on the depth chart, it looks like. He's still young, got some time. I'm excited to see if he gets any snaps because he's one of those guys that can just he's kind of like an Ashton Daniels, but maybe a little bit better arm, and he can make things happen when things break down. And then we have the last 2 are, I'm gonna go with Julian Neal here real quick because he was technically at the farm for 3 weeks. He never actually did anything. He never showed up to campus. There's some funky things happening in the background. So he ended up entering the portal and going to Arkansas, where he's going to be a starter there. I think that one hurt a lot because that would have given us a lot of cornerback depth. But what can you do? I think he was guided by some other people. And then finally, we have Ben Gabranson, QB from Oregon State, named starter. So we will get into that later. But Ben came off a pretty good career at Oregon State, ups and downs, some duff days, but otherwise did fine.
Could forget his touchdown pass.
Oh, still trying to forget.
Stanford Stadium from 2022, whatever that was. It put it very far back in my memory. But yeah, I'm excited. And, originally when I heard or saw the news that he was coming in, I thought it was a depth play, right?
Yeah.
Andrew and Frank obviously wanting to add to that room, but we get the news last week, and we'll go into it a little bit more in detail. But 6-year senior, a lot of experience, has won a lot of games, and excited to see what he can do in more of a pro style offense.
Absolutely. So Stanford brings in a pretty decent sized class. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm probably going to hit on the ones that are going to be players this year, starting with John Anthony Hall, 4-star recruit, number 3 in Indiana, number 21 receiver in the nation. From what I've heard, he is the real deal. The second coming of A.O. Manor, maybe. So that's a lot to put on his shoulders pretty early, but everything we've seen from camp, we've heard, is that he will be a starter from day one. He is a physical freak, basketball player, fast, can jump. So it'll be exciting to see what he can do. Obviously,
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him start right away at Hawaii. I heard he got banged up a little bit in camp, so wasn't able to practice, learn the offense a bit. But from a talent perspective, I think it's pretty clear he is one of the guys that we will need to rely on to stretch the field this year. Relying on him as a true freshman, obviously hard, but you saw it last year with them at Mosley. Freshmen can come in and really make a difference, especially at receiver. So excited to see him contribute.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. The latest intel I'd heard is that he will probably not play against Hawaii, but with the extra week of rest, expect him to be playing against BYU. So it'll be good to see what he can do on the big stage. Gabe Kaminsky supposedly has turned some heads. People keep talking about him. The coaches have said great things. Same with Landon McCumber. Both big physical linebackers. I think Gabe's going to play a little bit of edge, outside linebacker. Cole Breiler, the big defensive lineman, 6'2", 263 out of high school. That's crazy to me. Heavily recruited by Ohio State and Oklahoma. We think he could probably get a couple snaps. I would say D-line is kind of like O-line. I mean, you might have more insight. It's tough to break down as a true freshman.
It is, especially interior. You typically see more mature, older bodies there, and it's not uncommon to see a freshman come in and compete at edge, but interior wise, I don't think Stanford's getting the bodies that Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State are, at least from a freshman perspective, that can come in and contribute right away early on. But, excited to see where he goes and develops.
Yep. And then we have Mickey Vaccarello. Heard great things about him, similar to Landon McCumber. 2 extremely physical linebackers. They want to hit. Mm-hmm. And it's been a physical camp. We'll talk about, the injuries in a little bit, but I've heard they have, jumped right in. My personal freak list is Ramin Zebert. If you look at his sprint times, they are bananas for a guy who is 6'6", 205 pounds. I don't know. I've said this on the message boards. I would like to see him in maybe an X receiver role, similar to John Humphreys.
Yeah.
He's just so skinny. I'm not sure if he'll ever.
Second coming of Kobe Fleener.
Ooh, yeah, I could see that. Absolutely. But man, he's got some special athlete in him. So we'll see what he happens. Emeka Yori. Oh, that was a tough one. He is actually on the 2 deep, one of 3 freshmen to make the 2 deep. So that's pretty impressive for him.
He's a big boy. He is a big boy, and excited to see. I mean, obviously you never really like to see freshmen cracking the 2 deep on the offensive line, but as Stanford fans have learned the last couple of years, beggars can't be choosers. But when a talent comes in like him, I think it's good to see that he's cracked the 2 deep, and excited to see what he can do. Obviously, hopefully he does not play because a lot of injuries have occurred. Maybe we talk about the O-line in a bit, but have some general comments there. But before we get into that, overall, when we're talking about the incoming transfers and the incoming class, 2 main things I think are huge that we really haven't seen. But this season is really a program shifting season from a administration perspective, allowing 17 transfers into Stanford. That was something that no one thought would be possible. So I think from a Stanford fan perspective, we are excited that the administration has gotten on, on page with the ever-changing college football dynamic, but for the last 4 years, we've heard Stanford can't win. Stanford isn't going to take in transfers. We see a big influx of transfers leaving every year, but, this is a really solid first step in the right direction of, acclimating to the new world of college football. And I think it helps, obviously, having Andrew Luck on board kind of steering the ship. But in terms of what we've been asking for, find high academic guys. They are out there that can get into Stanford, that want to transfer into Stanford. 17 of them this year, hoping that trend continues. And especially as, Stanford gets better and starts winning games, you're going to be able to bring in talent. We've seen that over the course of the last 20 years or so. Excited that we get to see some of these transfers come in, and a lot of them are going to be impact players year one. So it'll be
Yeah, I mean, special shout out too to President Levin. I
yeah,
mean, from day one that he came in, and I think this circulated. This is a little bit of Stanford football lore, is that he was head of the business school. I think it was Stefan Taylor.
yeah. Stephon Taylor was invited to his son's like fifth
That's
birthday
right.
or something like that. So you can see that he cared. And he's also a Stanford undergrad,
Yep.
so he gets it right. And to have a president, especially at Stanford, that gets how important football and athletics in general, but really football is to the university, I think is a huge, 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 huge program changing, university changing element that, we all as Stanford fans have been asking for. So excited to see that move. I think he was out of practice 2 days ago. So it's
It
nice.
was the last time that happened.
Nice to see.
MTL wasn't coming to practice, I'll tell you that much.
No.
That guy sucked.
He was too busy falsifying records. Okay.
On another note,
Preseason buzz. I think for a majority of Stanford fans, with the few and far between that are on the boards, and everyone's aware of some of the development and players that we believe are going to make big steps. I think number one, we got to start with the O-line, right? Who, Ryan, do you think, at least across the O-line, are you expecting to see the biggest jump in performance this year?
I would love to see Fisher Anderson take that jump to a starter. I think Fisher's a great kid. He's a great leader. Maybe that is at center, though. I think there's been some discussion of Fisher, taking over the center duties. So I would love to see that jump. But really, I think the O-line really needs Pauley and House and Brown to make big jumps. I'm not too worried about Prongus. I'm curious to see how Nick Fatigue does and Zach Yamaguchi, but really, it's the center position and the right tackle in Khalil House. So I know Khalil House was named like a freshman All-American midway point. I want to see those three make a big jump. What about you?
I think it comes down to if we can have the same offensive line week to week to week, that is so pivotal, more so than any other position on the field. It's the sum of the parts rather than the individual. So I'm really hoping we avoid injuries here for the first time, and it seems like forever.
Oh,
But really, I think Khalil House taking a step in the right direction would be big. Pauley, if we want to establish the identity of running the football, it starts with our guards. And, Pauley and Fatig, I really hope that you see just a push off the line. Last year, when we were watching, it felt like our running backs to get the ball in the defensive line is already in the backfield, right? And
yep.
in order to be a solid power football team, power run, you need to see that explosive off the line first step that allows the running back to really see the hole. So I'm really looking, I think one of the keys for the season is the health of the offensive line. And you'll be able to see week one, are we getting push up front? If we're not getting push up front against Hawaii, we're in for a really long season.
I am a little concerned. No offense to Carson Kaplan. Seems like a great kid. I'm a little concerned about him on being the too deep for center. He's just, yeah. And then I also want to give kind of a shout out to like Charlie Hoytink. I mean, he accelerated up a year to come to Stanford. So he was teen last year as a freshman, which you don't see very often. Supposedly, from what I've heard, he is a freak athlete. Like we have to keep him for 5 years because he could be like a legit NFL draft pick. I mean, he's 6'4" and I think 10 now pounds.
Yeah.
As a 19-year-old, that's crazy.
One of them corn-fed Midwesterners.
I would not be I would have no problem with Bobby Abril, farming that Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota region. There's some
No,
big
no,
boys
no.
up there.
So we talked a little bit about key position on the offense. I think key position on the defense, or position group on the defense, really is the defensive backfield. We saw at the end of last year, I think injuries just decimated that the defensive backfield, the San Jose State game, the Cal game, multiple. You put out true freshmen that haven't played much, and you see the consequences of not having the depth, right? And, I think the depth is a little bit better this year. I think, obviously all the freshmen are a year older, which is going to hopefully prove to pay dividends. But, you also get a couple transfers. And I don't think the talent is there in the room yet to say that this is going to be a strength of our defense. But I do think we'll see more depth, obviously led by Colin Wright, one of the better corners in the ACC. I think he needs to really take on that alpha dog mentality of shutting down wide receiver one week in and week out. And then, we've heard good things about Washington from Dartmouth coming in, and I think he's getting the nod across from Colin Wright. So that'll be big. Jay Green back. We saw some really strong things from him early on before losing him against Clemson. I think he has the ability to kind of shift around and play multiple positions there at safety, nickel, whether it be, strong side or weak side. So pretty excited to see him back this year. And then Scotty Edwards. And, Scotty Edwards has been a kind of a staple of the defense the last 3 years, really. I'm so excited to see him take that next step and really lead us. And am I missing? Who else am I missing? I'm missing one more safety.
Lieber.
Yeah, Mitch Lieber.
That's right.
Pick six against Syracuse.
That was sick.
So look, I think from a defensive back perspective, I think the depth is there. We return a lot. I don't know if the top end talent other than Colin is there, but if we can see a competent, I think we have ranked 110 and below in pass defense the last 4 years. Can't happen. So, really excited to see the progress there and really the health there will be big.
What do you think is going to be the strongest part of the defense this year?
Strongest, I would say up front. I don't necessarily think that we have the, high end talent that is going to attract NFL eyes, but I do think we're returning our entire defensive front, other than David Bailey, and offensive line and defensive line, especially when you look at who have the better offensive line and defensive line in the country. It's always who's the oldest, who's returning the most, and we are. So I think up front and the inside linebackers are really going to set the tone, and excited to see what they can do this year.
Okay. Well, that leads us to a couple key position battles that are going on right now and have been going on through camp. The biggest being obviously the quarterback, right? Quarterback's the head honcho. A lot of people, I think at the beginning of the year, thought it was Elijah Brown. He was destined to be QB1. He had a tough season last year. I think a lot of that can be attributed to playing behind a pretty subpar O-line, having pins in his hand and still playing. Tough kid. I hope that maybe Miles Jackson could compete, but it sounds like, based on everything we've seen on the depth chart, we've heard, it's going to go Ben Gilbranson is going to be QB1. Elijah Brown is QB2, but like a very close QB2. And then you have Dylan Risk, and then Miles Jackson and Charlie Muir. I guess just talk about, like, what do you think about the decision to go with Gilbranson over Brown?
I think you're seeing exactly what Andrew Luck told the players in the spring, right? This isn't the NBA where you tank to get a top round draft pick or the first overall draft pick. This is a win now situation. And obviously having a 6-year senior who's played a lot of football, it helps, right? Having a general that understands, we heard Coach Bobby April talk about what he sees in Gilbranson and the ability to kind of dissect, blitz pickups, setting protections, especially in a pro style offense, is huge. I don't necessarily think we're not going to see Elijah Brown, as a Stanford stan. Obviously we all wanted to see Elijah Brown take the reins. He was obviously arguably our biggest recruit in the last 4 cycles. So having him not be the starter is tough. And, I think the pundits around the country were expecting Elijah to take that next step and really take the starting nod. But, I don't think it's a bad thing that we're seeing Branson, at least early on in the season, be the starter. And then, we'll see what happens after that. But I would not be surprised if we see a lot of EB at some point this season.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. Is I think EB will play this year. I don't see that as Branson taking the entire season. I think it was close enough that there's some chances, but once again, everything I've heard is that Branson has really impressed the coaching staff. And, Bobby April had some very high praise for him. His intelligence, which is important, right? It felt like the last couple of years, Ashton Daniels was a great athlete, right? Like he would be a great Ivy League quarterback. He'd be a great FCS quarterback. But like when you get to that next step in the P4s, like guys just can read defenses. Like they can just anticipate so well where the blitz is coming from. And I felt like that was something we have been missing since Tanner McKee, which is like a game manager. And I really think that Dr. Ben is the intelligence to see the play happen. And I think that'll help a lot. I always kind of wondered that teams saw Daniels and they're like, oh, we're just going to go at him, right? Yeah. Because we're not worried he's going to beat us with his arm. If he's going to beat us, it's with his feet. And I mean, he makes some nice throws. I mean, he's once again a great athlete. He had great wide receivers, but I was never sold on him being able to pick up blitzes and make calls. And I think Ben will do that really well.
I think the number one thing you need from your quarterback is that he's not going to make backbreaking decisions. And we saw time in and time out, last season, timely turnovers that led to game shifting results, right? I mean, you go to the Clemson game, multiple interceptions. You go to the San Jose State game. What was going on there? And it's, no fault to Ashton. I think he was obviously trying his best out there and, had some amazing throws. And you could see the appearance of a good quarterback at times, but really just the consistency, right? In a rebuild like this, you need a quarterback that's going to be consistent. And I think that's what the message is being sent is Ben will be a consistent field general quarterback that we need to limit turnovers and simplify the game, right? Last year, I just felt like we saw so many highs, so many lows. To win a football game, it's all about consistency and letting the defense go out there and play tight and get 3 and outs and hopefully having longer drives to let our defense sit there and catch their breath a little bit. It felt like last year it just was a snowball effect. After a turnover, you saw the defense get tired and then it was over.
Yep. We'll talk, I think, a little bit about this maybe towards our Hawaii preview podcast about the coaching decisions that Taylor made that kind of put the defense in terrible spots. I put up a stat somewhere. I'll find it again. Stanford had like the worst starting position of any. It was like number 135 out of 136 college football teams, Division I. Like defensively. So that means that the average starting position of the other team's offense was like somehow on like the 45-yard line. That's insane.
Yeah.
That you are essentially backing your defense in a corner every single time. I think Frank Reich will take a much more conservative approach to that. I think the defense will get better. The offense will make less bad 4th down plays. I did want to read quickly this quote from Bobby April on Ben Branson, which I think we can all agree kind of was like, whoa, yeah, super bright, right? Super bright. So he can pick up our blitz patterns pretty quickly. He identifies the pressures. He puts the slide protections and man protections in the right side. He's been really fun to watch. So far as the mental side of it, outstanding. And he's got a live arm. He sees the field really well. He recognizes coverages really quickly and gets the ball out. So he's been a challenge for us, the defense, to deal with for sure. I'm excited for his opportunity. I don't think I've ever seen a coach have a quote about a Stanford football player like that in a couple of years, to be completely honest. I mean, maybe A.O. Manor.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you want your defensive coordinator giving compliments to your quarterback or else something's going on. But no, I think what we're going to see this year is a more consistent offense, an offense that doesn't lose games, right? I think the thing that we thought that Troy Taylor's offense was going to give us is this game-breaking, high-flying offense that, we put points on the board and that never really came to fruition. In fact,
Mhm.
kind of the opposite. It took points off the board and put our defense in really bad position. So I'm excited to see what this defense can do in better positions this year, hopefully, and
Yeah.
a consistent running game helping our offense, ultimately put up points, but we'll see.
The other big battle has been at the running back position, right? Now we have probably the most depth outside of inside linebacker running position at our running backs. I think there's some legitimate talent there. I think Micah Ford and Cole Tab have the talent to be top wide like running backs in the country. The question is always going to be, how is the O line going to help? So right now, looking at the two deep, we have Micah Ford at 1, Cole Tab at 2, Cedric Irvin at 3, and Tuna Altier at 4. Chris Davis Jr. looks like he's going to be playing maybe some. I heard some rumors of slot receiver with Caden High, and he's also going to be our punt and kick returner, which
Mhm.
I think is a great decision. I've heard rumors Colin Wright might do some of those, and that scared me really badly because the last place Colin Wright needs to be is catching balls. Like, he's too important.
Yeah, look, I think it's really going to be a running back by committee. So you can say 1, 2. I think Micah Ford is going to be the starter, and I think it starts with him. But at the end of the day, you've got 5 talented running backs that can all compete. You saw that, last year you saw Chris Davis. He really had the ability to break open long runs. You saw it against Syracuse. He had a couple long runs against Clemson. He had a couple long runs. I think he's the fastest of the backs. Maybe doesn't know the offense as well. The blitz pickup. Protection scheme is Ford and Tab, but I think you're going to see a heavy dose of all of them. I really do. And look, it all starts at the offensive line, as we said, but I think we can be confident that we have talent in the running back room, and excited to see what they can do this year.
I think one of my big predictions for this year is that Micah Ford bursts onto the scene. Like, I think he is going to be.
Yeah, he's got that dog in him.
Yeah,
You
he
see
has
why he
like,
runs
what's
the
he
rock.
listed at right now? He's a tank, dude.
Yeah.
He's listed at 6 foot 220.
Yeah.
And he can run and he can throw the ball.
Yeah.
I mean,
you
he's just
saw it against Clemson.
he looked like a man amongst boys
He was running the ball with will, and
against
he
a
just,
good team.
yeah, I mean, you kind of measure up against, okay, what talent are we going up against? And Clemson, one of the best teams in the ACC last year, and he was right up there with them. So excited to see what he can do this year, and I think we're going to see a heavy dose of all of them, honestly.
Great. There's some battles in the O-line. Fortunately, we have to talk about the loss of Nathan Mejia and Jack Lair. Tough losses to 2 guys who projected to be starters. I believe the rumors from camp are the guy that's really impressed, I think, is the Ugorji.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a hard time with his name. It's going to take me a couple podcasts to kind of. The pronunciation guide has it as, and we're reading off Emeka Ugorji. So if I pronounce his name wrong, someone can send me an audio clip. But he's on the 2 deep, which is pretty impressive for a freshman.
No, excited to see what he can do. It was a big time recruiting win too to get him out of Dallas, and he's just a body. You see him in pictures from practice. He stands out, right? As a true freshman, you don't expect that type of girth, and he's a big boy. So excited to see if he can contribute this year. Obviously, hoping that our O-line stays healthy enough to where he doesn't have to play as a freshman, but we'll see.
Finally, the last part here is kind of these events like a edge outside linebacker battle. I want to give a shout out to Benedict Ume. What a story that kid is, right? Like, diagnosed with cancer. Stanford, said, we'll honor it. Come here. We'll take care of you. And then, he beats it the first time, gets to Stanford, and then it comes back. But he is, as we've heard, cancer free. I saw some quotes from Bobby April where he called him an alien. Like, he is a physical
you see pictures
freak.
of him. He looks like a freak.
Well, I am just excited to see him on the field. I think just because of what he's been through, but also because I think he's going to be a top talent eventually.
Yeah. I think he's the next crop of guys to really fill in on the D-line. I mean, it's obviously a 5th year and senior led driven defensive line, a lot of returners. So don't know how much he's going to play this year. I think he will rotate. I think, we've seen that he is in kind of the mix, but as far as kind of next up, you really point to him, especially as big time recruit coming in. He's got to take a big step next year and be one of the bell cows of the defense.
Yeah. And shout out to Dylan Stevenson. I mean, he's making the 2 deep too behind three, as you said, seniors and Ernest Cooper, who that's a guy I would love to say a big jump from him because he was recruited almost on par with David Bailey.
Mhm.
Be nice to see him make a huge jump. Abar and Tafiti. So I think you have some real depth at that position. I'm excited to see what they can do. And I'm excited to see Dylan looks like. I mean, it's 6'4", 235, big time offers. He could really, another guy that could just, if he pops off, he fills right in for David Bailey.
I think it's the most talented room across the board in the roster. And that's why the loss of Bailey didn't hurt as much as everyone wants to say it hurt. Obviously losing David isn't great, but you see this room and it's definitely the strongest on our roster. So excited to see what they can do this year. I think Dylan obviously came in as a pretty big time recruit too. I think he's a little lankier than our other guys. So we'll see if he put on a little bit of weight this year and can contribute. Season outlook, and bear with us. This is our first podcast, so we are fresh.
We're just kind of rambling here.
We're rambling here. Season preview. Look, when this schedule came out originally, I saw it and immediately thought, we can win some games here. It's not.
I think so too.
It's not that hard of a schedule. And then we had the offseason turmoil.
Yeah.
We lost Troy Taylor, obviously. Had some key departures. So to win more than 3 games this year with this schedule, I think it's doable. I think our win total is set at 3.5 right now.
Yeah.
Juice to the under a bit. You can see a way to 4. You could see a way to 5, but
you could see a way to 0 too. Which
you
is
could see a
kind
way
of
to 0 too. But really, it comes. The key to the season is getting off to a fast start. Right? You look at the schedule. There are winnable games in the first half of the season. If we don't get those wins early on in the season, it's going to be a long season because our season is definitely backloaded. But starting off at Hawaii, must-win game. Must-win game.
Has to win that game. We cannot come back from Hawaii with a loss. And the worst part about that too, we are the only show in town. Like I didn't realize this till later. I was looking at the schedule. Like there's the Irish kickoff game at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time.
It's on CBS primetime. It's not.
It's on CBS primetime. Stanford versus Hawaii. Like I thought it was gonna be some night game. Maybe like a couple sickos might watch. No, we're gonna be front and center in front of the whole country with no one else playing. I really want to have a good that to me is if we come out with it could go either way from there.
Need a good showing there. Need to get a dub. BYU, obviously a pretty solid program, a program that has leaps and bounds above where we have been the last 4 years, but obviously losing their quarterback to some controversy about midway through the summer opens up and makes this game a bit more interesting. I think what makes it even more interesting is the fact that we're going to see Bear Bachmeier and Tiger.
My God.
Which hurts the soul a little bit, but no person that doesn't like Andrew Luck can be, I can be a fan of.
I think that might be my second wildest prediction is that I think Bear Bachmeier is back at Stanford next year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I don't know. I'm not sold that they're completely gone. I think Tiger he gets like a 1-year break for his CS. So someone said technically he can leave for a year, but he has to come back if he wants his CS degree. So, there's you're like, man, I wonder if it's just get a paycheck and come back, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, it'll be weird seeing Bear Bachmeier in a BYU jersey.
Then we go to BC. I think a winnable
BC at
game.
home.
BC at home.
Yeah,
winnable game.
Definitely.
Losable game. But, not someone that you're necessarily scared of coming in. Virginia, another potentially winnable game.
Yeah.
And then a must-win game against San Jose State. You
can't lose that.
They State again.
No.
So, looking at those first 5 games, if you get, call it 2 to 3 wins out of that, we're looking at a pretty good season that, we can see progress in. You get 2 or less, and it's a little scary because the toughest stretch of the season really is that back-to-back road games, SMU, Florida State, Miami. It's going to be hard. And I think pivotal week 1 matchup, you need to beat Hawaii. Then we go into the bye. BYU, obviously a little bit more talented. BC at home, at Virginia, San Jose State. You need 3 out of 5 there.
You need 3 out of 5.
You need 3 out of 5 there.
If you got 4, that'd be unbelievable. Get there. I don't think they'll ever get 5 out of 5.
They get 4 out of 5, and we may be talking bowl game. But
yeah. But man, does it get harder after that?
It really does.
Florida State's going to be good this year too. They were not happy with how last year went, and they went out and got all new guys.
I will say my bold prediction is that we beat Miami on the road because Mario Cristobal cannot beat Stanford.
I love that. I forgot about that.
2019 Oregon, 2021 Oregon.
Who picked up that fumble? That was
Joey Alfieri.
Yeah. Alfieri with the ball. That was crazy. And one of my favorite highlights of all time.
And then we upset them when we were at home. When we were, I think it was the slow mush era of David Shaw, beat the number 3 Oregon Ducks. Cristobal cannot beat Stanford, so I'm going on record by saying that we will not lose to Miami at Miami.
I love it.
But that's a schedule overview. Obviously win total at 3-5, not very optimistic for the season, but a manageable early stretch followed by a big burden on the second half. So, hoping that we can at least see 3 out of 5 there early on, and then we can, feel a little bit more confident.
I would love to see UNC tank a little bit because we have that. Like our last stretch of games, right, is UNC at Chapel Hill. I'm going to go on record. I think that one's going to be on like ABC or ESPN because Frank Reich and Bill Belichick, the last time they coached against each other was the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that is like 2 big names going. I mean, that's the Philly special versus the dynasty that was in New England. So I'm hoping the Bill Belichick experiment goes off the rails and then we just kind of catch them at a bad time. But that's another team that hit the portal pretty hard, and they're going to be a tough team. You got Cal and Notre Dame to finish the season. I think you cannot lose again to Cal. I think it's an absolute must-win game.
Nope.
And I don't think we're beating Notre Dame anytime soon. They're too good. Also, how about like the Stanford football fans account once again bringing back up the Notre Dame and Stanford to the Big Ten?
I believe it when I see it.
He has been pretty adamant about that. I don't know. It makes sense to me, but I think we have to resurrect the entire football team before that happens.
We'll see. Let's focus
on
the ACC for now. Yeah, I think it is the tides are going to be shifting in 5 years, right? When all these TV contracts end and Stanford needs to be in a position where we are a competitive football program and competitive basketball program, attractive enough for the Big Ten to look at us, right? So
agreed.
It starts this season. We need to see progress. Early stretch, manageable. Back half, less manageable.
All right, let's hear your prediction. Season prediction. What do you got?
Season prediction. I'm going with wins against Hawaii, BC, San Jose State, and Cal. 4-8.
So 4 wins. Okay. I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic. I'm going to go 6-6. I think they beat Hawaii. I think they do beat BYU because Bear Bachmeier is going to play his first college football game and be in shell shock. So I'm going to go BYU, BC. That's 3. San Jose State's 4. I'm going to go North Carolina is 5, and Cal is 6.
Okay.
So 6-6 in a bowl game. I think that's the goal.
If we go 5-0, we're going streaking down Palm Drive.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be a show. We'll probably be kicked out of campus for good. All
right, 6-6 bowl game would be tangible evidence of an improvement in the program and put Andrew Luck in a position to hire a coach that we would be appreciative of. I'll leave it.
I think that's the point, right? It's like we want to have a good season that Andrew can go out and get a bunch of transfers because we're going to need transfers next year.
Yeah.
And 2, get a coach that is worthwhile. I know that Frank Wright is not coming back. I have heard that it's definitely a 1-year deal. It's not like, we'll see how it goes. Frank Reich did Andrew a favor by coming in this year. I think that favor runs out after the year. So we can talk about that probably at the end of the season, who we'd like to see Andrew Luck hire. But for now, let's just do a quick ACC overview and then finish up. So let's see. ACC predicted finishes. We have Clemson number 1, 10 nationally, which I think is low nationally for them. Miami 2, SMU 3, Louisville 4, Florida State 5, Georgia Tech 6, Virginia Tech 7, Duke 8, NC State 9, Pitt 10, UNC 11, Syracuse 12, Boston College 14, Cal 15, Virginia 15, Wake Forest 16, Stanford last place.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, I'm not shocked by Stanford positioning here, but you look across the ACC, I think pretty clearly it's the third best power conference.
Clearly.
Clemson, I think they're expecting pretty big things out of Cade Klubnik this year. You could see them definitely making the playoff. Miami, with their influx of talent, I think, the expectations are that they'll push for the playoff as well. SMU, Rhett Lashley, you saw them last year make the playoff. I think Chris Jenkins, their quarterback.
Yeah.
He's coming back. SMU has been obviously the best addition to the ACC so far. So I think that'll continue. Louisville with Brom bringing in Miller Moss. I think they'll be kind of my underdog pick to win the ACC.
I'm just most disappointed that Moss will not be coming to Stanford.
Yes.
Disappointing.
Florida State, it's going to be a toss-up, right? Yeah. Who knows what they're going to be this year?
Who knows?
Georgia Tech, Brent Pry, I think they're a program that we can aspire to be right now. I think they
Agreed.
have that kind of mentality, the run the ball mentality, and are more of an academically minded institution. Have really played good football the last 3 years. I think you can expect big things from them this year. Everyone else, I think it's kind of a hodgepodge, right? Syracuse, I think, had a great season last year, but they lost to us. And I also think their schedule is very hard. I think they had a pretty easy schedule, able to go 9-3 last year. I think they'll have trouble this year. Virginia, Wake Forest, BC, it's just kind of the tier 3, tier 4 toss-up, right? I think a handful of those teams you could see not making a bowl game this year, and hopefully Stanford is not one of those.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Clemson's my dark horse pick for the national title. I think that I have a lot of respect for Clemson, more than I thought. Their fan base is just wonderful. Every interaction I ever had was super positive. I really like Cade Klubnik. I have a lot of respect for Dabo Swinney because he's one of the few coaches that still emphasizes the importance of academics and getting a degree. I think they do a great job balancing academics and athletics and producing really good football teams. So I have nothing but respect for Clemson. I'm not sold on Miami. I know everyone's talking about this big recruiting class, but they're like the Texas A&M of the ACC. Every year they're the offseason national champion and they're back, whatever. They're like USC, right? And every year there's 30,000 people packed into Hard Rock Stadium watching them go 6-6. So I'll see it when I believe it. SMU, really impressive. I think they take a big step back though. Someone did an analysis, like their entire team was like 25 last year and they all graduated. So that COVID we talked about earlier, COVID extra year helped a lot of teams look better than they actually were. And I think without those gone, Stanford has a much easier playing level now that the average age has sunk a little bit. So I think that really hurts SMU and it really hurts Louisville. I see Florida State back in 2 or 3 range. I think they just have a lot of talent. I think last year was a fluke. We'll see what happens with Georgia Tech. I really like how they build their program. As we talked about, they should be a model what Stanford does. They have big time recruits. They're physical. They have a good QB, and they get higher academic kids. I'd like to see us win a couple more recruiting battles against them. I am shocked Duke's up there. That one hurt. Actually, Balboa hurt the most. Babaloa. That one, I thought we had him. I was almost sure we had him. So that sucks. The rest of them, I really don't care. Pitt, I guess they have Eli Holstein back. Everyone seems to think he's impressive. We'll see. UNC is my biggest wild card. They could either win the ACC or they will finish last place because they don't go off the rails. You just don't know what's going to happen there. Syracuse, I think they're going to be better than their ranking. I like their coach. They recruit well. BC, I want to see how Dylan Lonergan does. I was big on him. I really wanted Stanford to land him when he was, I think he would have been a great baseball and football player for us. But supposedly he's done well in camp. We'll see how he does. We get to see him early on. I think Cal falls off. I'm Brian, is it Harsey, whatever his name? Hater. That guy is such a dweeb loser. It's not even a good way to describe it, but I just don't think he's a very good coach. They lost so much talent. They lost their entire running back room. I think for the best thing that can ever happen to Cal is going 1-10, 1-11, and then firing Wilcox. Get a real coach. That guy is he's you remember PFT and Big Cat used to have a joke about Jeff Fisher. It's what's Jeff Fisher's next move? It's above 500, lose a game.
No, it's perfect.
Below 500, win a game.
It is literally perfect. He has been able to keep his job because he has beaten Stanford the last 4 years. The worst Stanford has ever been. And
that's good enough.
it's perfect for us because they have managed to keep him as head coach every year because they get a big Stanford big game win. Guess what? Last year we were heinous, and you should have lost to us. The year before, you barely beat us. We're terrible. Like, what are you guys doing?
I sort of love it though, and I was saying like the best thing that could ever happen to Cal would be them firing Wilcox,
No,
but I don't think they do it.
That's what we don't want that to happen. We want Wilcox to be a long tenured.
I actually have Wake Forest jumping up a little bit. I like their coach,
I
Dickert,
do, but
from
not
Washington
this year.
State.
Not this
They don't
year.
have a lot of talent.
Not
Yeah.
this year.
Okay. So I think my final projection is that I'm gonna go Stanford finishes like 9th. I think this is the year we make the jump. We look competitive. I think that 6-6 gets us into like 9th or 10th, and then we build off that.
Yeah, wouldn't hate it.
Yes. I'm an optimistic human being though.
Would not hate it.
Okay. Let's any hot takes you want to include? I guess like we should have a segment at the very end before we go. Is like, give me your hottest take. Like,
I mean, my
what's
hottest take for this season is we're going to beat Miami.
Okay.
We're going to beat
I love
Miami.
it.
We will not lose to Miami. I also called this out 2 years ago when Dion got hired at Colorado. I said Stanford's going to beat Colorado.
It seems like a perfect upset. I think outside of my Bear Bachmeier back to Stanford theory, which is asinine, I think, wow, I'm trying to think I want someone to get Heisman votes, and I can't think if it's going to be Branson or Micah Ford.
It'd be Micah Ford.
You think so?
Yeah, he has the biggest potential.
I think that my hot take is that a Stanford player gets which is like, once again, that is spicy hot. That is out of this world. But I think we get a Heisman vote this year.
And I guess we already talked about this, but win totals for the season, I think we're both over 3.5.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're always betting the over even in the last 4 years. So it could be the optimist in us, but I think there's winnable games on the schedule this year. So we'll see what happens. And then, I guess a question before we get into next week's episode, but what, in your opinion, would be a successful season? What are the 3 things you need to see to say this was a successful season?
I think we talked about this with growth, right? There has to be some type of growth on our offense and defense. I cannot stand being like 110 in the SP plus every single year. That's just unacceptable. Considering like the teams that are above us, like we have like recruits that they've never even seen on their campus before. They've never even toured that we have better players. I really want to see that growth to like a competitive team. I want to see mental toughness. I think a lot of the times last year, the moment one thing went wrong, this entire team just like buckled. Other than maybe A.O. Manor. You could tell was like pissed and working the entire time. But I want really to see some resiliency. And then finally, just not get blown out. No more blowouts.
Yeah.
No more Notre Dame. No more SMUs. Even if you lose, keep it close. Yeah. What about you?
I think number 1, I want to see us have 1,000-yard rusher for the first time since 2018.
How about score a touchdown?
Yeah, touchdown.
Our running backs did not score a touchdown last season.
Last year. That's my number 1. My number 2 is health. If it is going to be a successful season, we can't have the injury luck that we've had the last 4 years. And then my last kind of measure of success, it's stupid, but beat Cal. You have to beat Cal this year.
I agree. Anyway. All right. You want to wrap us up?
Yeah. First episode, guys. So give us, cut us a little slack. We'll get more organized here. But the goal.
No promises on the name pronunciation, so that probably will still suck.
Yeah. But we're excited to talk Stanford football to the few and far between Stanford football fans that are out there. I don't think we get covered enough, and hopefully we can really track the rise of this storied program and do it together, because all of us know what this program is capable of, and we all want to see Stanford back in prominence. But a couple things for just the outlook for the podcast. I think Ryan and I are going to shoot for 2 episodes weekly. One kind of pregame outlook on any of the the upcoming opponents, kind of give you a breakdown of what to watch for, what to expect from the opponent, maybe bring on a couple guests to talk about the respective opponents. And then hopefully Monday mornings, we'll probably tape Sunday night post game. Monday mornings we'll have a breakdown of instant reaction from the game. So 2 episodes a week. That's kind of our goal. One kind of pregame, one postgame. And then, if anything bigs, maybe we'll have a couple emergency episodes, but looking forward to continuing this and giving the Stanford fans what they need, which is more Stanford football.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, until next time, this is Ross and Ryan, and let's go Stanford.
Go Card.
Fear the tree.